is for allowing people who are complaining about your tariffs to be permanently labeled as whiny, retarded, sad little bitches.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening?
Oh my God, I don't care what you say. Trump is easily the best troll in the world. That bit is funny as can be. Look, there are a lot of people out there whining about tariffs. The truth of the matter is, if you know what is really going on with tariffs, you'd be very happy about what you see. Now, I want you to think about something. They keep talking about how the market is crashing, right? But the bottom 20% of people don't own stock. But yet they got those people out there protesting and raising hell on the rich people's behalf. For those of you who have IRAs and 401ks, I get it. I understand you're concerned. But there's a bigger picture going on, and it has to do with saving this country. The Democrats are bitching because they sold us out a long time ago. They're a bunch of sellouts. And you're going to see why. When one superpower gets ready to take over another, let's say China, trying to take over the top position of the United States, inevitably it ends up in war. Now, if your country doesn't manufacture anything, you're going to lose the war. And the Democrats have been very, very good about outsourcing all of our manufacturing, as you're going to see. Makes you wonder what side they're really on. Let's pay attention. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. PBD is going to break it down to you by state. Look how much jobs we've lost.
Trump tariff response. Rolls-Royce planning to shift production to U.S. to avoid Trump tariffs report. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Guys, I got three handful of charts I want to show you with this. That
I love
is
charts.
Oh, let me tell you, these charts that Brandon found, I have to show you this, and credit goes to him finding these charts, but they're insane. All right, let's read this. British engineering firm Rolls-Royce is planning to boost U.S. production to dodge President Donald Trump's tariffs, per London's Daily Telegraph. A source told the paper, if you are making something in countries like China, then you'll be looking at whether you can do it in the U.S. instead. The company, known for aerospace and defense, may shift from China, Canada, Mexico, where it employs around 6,000 workers, and even from the UK and Europe if tariffs hit. A Rolls-Royce spokesperson said, "We have additional capacity with some of our U.S. operations and continuously seek to explore options to ensure that our global internal supply chain is optimized for delivery to customers in the U.S. The U.S. is vital for Rolls-Royce, making up a third of its global sales, with key clients like U.S. Department of Defense, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. Last year, it earned, $7 billion in North America versus $3.36 billion in UK and $8.4 billion in Europe. You got to realize, most people, when we think about Rolls-Royce, what do we think about? Cars.
Of course.
But that's what they're famous for making.
Oh, wow, that's the number one thing?
The engines they make on planes, they'll say, we have a Rolls-Royce engine on a plane.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
That's
but we
sick.
think about the cars.
Engines for warplanes. These aren't just
Tom,
engines.
There's
These
a couple other stories, but I'll just turn it over to you. Tom, your thoughts on this here?
Well, first of all, this is a sign that the tariffs are working.
Bingo.
So we're trying to get it balanced. And Rolls-Royce says, I'll tell you what, I ship a lot of engines to the Department of Defense, and they ship key clients like Boeing and Lockheed. Oh, those are engines going to our defense contractors. And Lockheed Martin, don't forget Martin. And so tariffs are working. And what's also interesting related to this is, if you take a look, there's also a Wall Street Journal report. Now, this was Breitbart, and then there was an FT story, then there was a Wall Street Journal story. So everybody's saying the same things, and no one wants to say the simple headline, tariffs are working. Now, Wall Street Journal being very negative. The biggest auto losers in Trump's trade war so far, luxury brands. And they go on to say that the BMW 3 Series, blah, 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 blah. And they put all these stats out of poor BMW. And then, Audi's Q5 SUV, poor Audi.
We're talking about luxury vehicles. How many people actually can afford luxury vehicles? Most Americans can't. So why do we give a shit?
Wait a minute. What German car maker is left out of that list? We got BMW. We got Audi. Where's Mercedes? I'll tell you where Mercedes is. You know where Mercedes is? They're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where they invested in the U.S. years ago, and they build the GLE, the GLS, GLE, and all of their electric vehicles, the EQS and EQE. It's their number one factory in the world outside of the core factory they have in Germany. And 60% of what they make in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, is exported around the world with 16,000 American jobs. So guess what? the tariffs are working. And somebody like Mercedes is like, well, I've been here forever. This really doesn't bother me because I've been employing American workers and I'm exporting Mercedes around the world. And so what Rolls-Royce is doing is great, and that's the proper response to say, look, our customers over in the U.S., why don't we make our stuff there? And everything else. The tariffs are working, and look at the jobs that are coming, and look at how the products are reacting.
Look at all the jobs Trump is killing. All these governmental jobs, all these people getting laid off. Who cares? These are governmental hires. This is expanding the power of the government. We don't want that. Small government. That's what we want. Get rid of all those jobs, Trump. I'm happy to see it happen. If you work for the government and you got laid off, sorry. But the vast majority of people took advantage when Trump said, you have an option. Leave now and I'll give you 10 months worth of pay, cover all your medical, dental, and everything else. 98% of the people took advantage of that. There's a small group of people who stayed behind. Most of those people were trying to cover up all the crimes that they were involved in, and they got fired. The percentage of people that got laid off was 0.15. Not even 0.25% of the people that were fired. The rest took advantage of the money and got the hell out of there.
Guess what? If that BMW 3 Series is $10,000 more expensive, guess what? Mercedes is happy to sell you a C.
Oh, wow. And just because you mentioned Boeing package, I know obviously you guys you have your thoughts. Trump just awarded Boeing, because you talked about it, to develop U.S. Air Force's next generation fighter jet, the F-47, which will replace the F-22 Raptor. The deal is $20 billion. It just happened.
That plane is a beast.
That thing is ridiculous. Look at that thing. Like, damn.
It will own the skies.
Okay, so let me show you something here, which is something for everybody to think about when it comes down to this. Rob, I'm going to text this to you if you can please pull up this file. Oh, you have it already?
Yes.
Okay, can you go all the way to the top? Go all the way to the top, the main chart. So check this out. This is China's, close it up, Rob. Don't show the bottom one, just show the top one.
Pay attention to these charts because this is important. We lost 97,000 manufacturing companies, not jobs, companies, since NAFTA. 97,000 businesses moved overseas because the labor's cheaper. What Trump is doing now is evening out the playing field, forcing all those companies to come back here. Because during the time of war, you better be manufacturing something. Is Trump anticipating the war? The other day he made a speech about, you should see the weapons that we have. Unbelievable. He didn't say what they were. He said the weapons that we have are unbeatable.
Yeah, that one right there. Watch this. This is manufacturing, global manufacturing 2000. Look where we were at. 25% of global manufacturing came through us. Look who was second. You got the bottom left, MBA, 21%. Then you have UMC. Is that UMC or UMIC? Okay. Then you got Japan, 11%, Germany, 8%. And then you have China at what percent? 6%.
Yeah.
What happens in 2001? China gets welcomed to join the World Trade Organization, okay? And that's December 11 of 01. So here we go. Manufacturing. Now we're going to go to China. No problem. Go to the next chart, Rob. Then look what happens.
Jeez.
2030. 45% of manufacturing goes to them. Look where we are. 11%. Can you go back up and see where we were and they were? We were at 25%. This is jobs in the U.S. China was 6%. China goes to 45%. We dropped to 11%. 11% is where it goes to. Now, this is what's very important about this. By the way, Japan drops to 5%. I think they were at 11% if you go a little bit higher. Yeah, Japan was at 11%. They dropped to 5%. China takes everyone's lunch. Can you go back to the top? So here's what they did.
Germany lost half too.
They took us. They took Japan. They took Germany. They took they're at 45%. Now, who paid a price for this? Go a little bit lower by states. Michigan. Go a little bit lower, Rob. Watch this. This is Michigan. Look at 2001 when we joined the World Trade Organization. What happens to manufacturing jobs in Michigan? Boom. Drops.
He said when we joined the World Trade Organization. That's not us. He's talking about China. This is when China joined the World Trade Organization. Our manufacturing, state by state, was demolished. It's dismal compared to where it was. All these jobs we have up here, Trump's bringing back.
So bad. Not a slight drop. Look where it was at in the thousands on the left, 80,000 persons on the left.
If you're wondering which state, just look over here because he scrolls down. If you're not sure what we're looking at, this one's for Michigan. Just look here for each state.
It drops to what? Less than 20,000 just 7 years later when you see that 2008, 2009. Go to the next state. Go to the next state. Ohio, look at 2001, drops. Go to the next state, Rob. You got Pennsylvania, steel, 2001. Look where they're at. Look at the immediate drop-off of what they have and where they're at today. Go to the next state. These are all jobs that Indiana.
Thousands of persons. These are hundreds of thousands of jobs, and each state lost once China joined the World Trade Organization.
Look at how steep this one is. Jeez. Indiana loses their job. Boom, crashes all the way down. Go to the next one, Rob. Illinois. Here's Illinois for you from 2001. Drops. Clinton started this initiative early on, and then it took him 10 or 15 years to finally get it finalized. 10 years to get it finalized. I want to say something like that. 8 years to get it finalized. You got Carolina. Go to the next one, Carolina. Look at this one here. Keep going next, Rob. Go to the next one. South Carolina. Look at this one. How obvious and evident is it? And I'll tell you why. Go to Wisconsin. These are all people that had jobs. Go to New York. These are all people that had jobs. California. Do you know what happened when that took place? Look at California's, by the way, Vinny. Look at California's drop. When we allowed China to join the World Trade Organization. So now the question becomes what? The question is what? Why did this happen? You know why? You know what labor was in China at that time per hour? Do you know what it was?
Nothing.
50 cents per hour.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this a zillion times. The reason why a lot of companies went over to China, went over to Vietnam, went over to Malaysia is because the labor pool is so cheap compared to the United States.
Slave labor.
Of course.
Slaves.
50 cents per hour. So allowing China to join the World Trade Organization, who did it help?
China.
No. Of course, China. But who else did it help?
It also helped us because we get way cheaper goods.
Who did it help in America, though?
Walmart.
It helped the rich. Because the rich got richer. It allowed the rich to say, why am I hiring people in America? Let me send these jobs off to what?
Overseas.
To China, overseas, somewhere else, 50 cents. And do you know for the first time in the last 2 years, minimum wage for low-wage employees is now lower in Mexico than it was in China by 50 cents. By 50 cents it's lower. So that's why China is building their car manufacturing in Mexico called the Hafusan, right? But if you look at China, they're paying 50 cents per labor. Rich gets richer. Poor gets poorer. These jobs leave America. And you know what these tariffs are now doing? You know what these tariffs are now doing? These tariffs are now forcing people to bring those jobs back to America.
Good.
One by one by one. We made China a behemoth, allowing them to join the World Trade Organization, knowing companies were hiring slave labor for 50, 70 cents an hour, while those jobs are 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour in America. That's how all these jobs were lost.
So now keep in mind, China was already on the verge of bankruptcy. They have been pumping so much money in the military. I mean, astronomical amounts of money in the military. And why is that? Just like I said, China wants to step up and replace America. America is not going to let it go easily, so it's time for war. But you have to have the money to do that. You have to be able to manufacture. Let's see where China is right now.
China's once questionable dominance on the world stage is faltering. For decades, the world has been afraid to stand up to the Eastern superpower for fear of what it could do to world economies. But Donald Trump has just done it, and the results are astounding. China is being left out in the cold after nations across the globe have chosen to negotiate with the United States rather than stand with China.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, you know, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also, but somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right.
And without the support of the world, China could very well be entering a new era of economic struggle. Without access to America, the world's top consumer, China has nowhere else to sell. Europe lacks demand and domestic buyers are shrinking with falling birth rates. Economic pain means mass layoffs, and mass layoffs threaten communist control. To avoid chaos, the US must bury Beijing's ambitions with diplomatic finesse, not a hammer. Asia's lining up to cut deals and Trump holds the cards. If he pulls this off, he may not just reshape trade, he could rewrite history.
Poor Kevin Leary went on CNN and had to deal with all those idiots out there. I have no doubt about CNN and the Democrats actually hate America. But thank God we got people like Kevin here is going to explain why it is we should kick the tariffs up even higher on China.
Kevin, he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a
about
second,
tariffs
Kevin.
on
Well,
60
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods they're going to have?
short-lived. There will be
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
What do you think?
Here's the thing, though. This is the perfect example of, I understand how it would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for. They voted because Trump said within 24 hours, costs will come down.
Oh, man, give me a break. They keep bringing it. He says within 24 hours. It doesn't make a difference. It's doing it now. Trump is taking care of what he promised now. And for those of you who don't pay attention, because you listen to idiots like these people here, Trump said, along with Elon Musk, hang tight, America. The first year is going to be a little tight. But after that, we'll be smooth sailing. Believe it or not, China does have a lot of very, very rich people. But a lot of them have been locked up in prison. Now, call me crazy, but all of a sudden we're starting to see these billionaires show up in the news. That's because China needs them.
As the US-China trade war continues to escalate, Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping held and presided over a symposium with private entrepreneurs in Beijing on February 17th. This marks the first high-level meeting between Xi and Chinese business leaders in 7 years. Similar to the last such meeting in 2018, this one also took place against the backdrop of trade tensions with the United States, under then-President Donald Trump. However, China's economic situation is now significantly more challenging than it was then. Among the entrepreneurs attending the meeting were Huawei founder Ren Zhengfei, Tencent chairman and CEO Pony Ma, and Xiaomi founder Lei Jun. Also present were newer industry figures such as DeepSeek founder Liang Wenfeng and Unitree Robotics founder Wang Xingxing. However, the most notable attendee was Alibaba founder Jack Ma, who had been absent from public view for years. Following the meeting, Jack Ma was among 3 entrepreneurs who shook hands with Xi Jinping. Observant netizens also noted that in a video aired on China Central Television's news broadcast, Xi could be heard asking Ma, "Are you doing well?" during their handshake. This brief exchange sparked widespread online discussion. Some speculated whether this signified reconciliation.
Look, let's be honest. Xi needs these people. A lot of them have their assets out of China. He needs these people. He needs their brains. He needs to figure out how to challenge Trump.
That just 4 years ago, Xi Jinping nearly had Jack Ma imprisoned. Others questioned whether this indicated a broader rapprochement between the Chinese Communist Party and private enterprises, pointing out that many business figures remain in detention and that the government's recent emphasis on protecting private entrepreneurs' rights coincides with economic difficulties. Comments online reflected skepticism, with some stating that private entrepreneurs like Ma would not be deceived repeatedly, and referencing business tycoons such as Pan Shiyi and Li Ka-shing, who have already secured their assets abroad and are watching the sinking ship from afar. Jack Ma's attendance at this meeting sent shockwaves through the business community. Analysts also noted that while Ma was seated in the front row among executives, he was not given a speaking role. Additionally, state media reports did not mention him, leading to varied interpretations of his status at the event. Jack Ma was seated second from the left. Chinese entrepreneur Anna Wong, who resides in the United States, believes this positioning suggests he remains marginalized. Speaking to Radio Free Asia, she explained that in China, seating arrangements hold significant meaning. She argued that while Ma may have been symbolically rehabilitated, he has not been fully reinstated, as indicated by his placement at the side rather than the center. According to Wong, Ma is well aware of the CCP's methods. Jack Ma's fall from grace began in October 2020 when he publicly criticized China's financial regulatory system, calling it outdated and obstructive to innovation. His remarks were widely seen as a key factor that angered CCP leadership. Shortly afterward, the Chinese government intervened to halt the $34 billion initial public offering of Alibaba's financial arm, Ant Group.
As you can see, China was desperate then and it's desperate now. So with these tariffs taking place, what position is China in right now? How close are they to collapsing as a country?
Last month, I took an order for a batch of copper parts. I've already bought all the materials. It cost tens of thousands, and everything has been cut, ground, washed, and engraved. It's not finished yet, but today the customer messaged me and said the delivery might be delayed. After customs clearance, the taxes have gone up too much. A TikToker who works as a bulk trade supplier shared in his video the huge pressure he's under after the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs.
Our orders are worth over $50 million US. This year, we're already booked through May 2026. But with this 30% tariff hike, the impact on us is huge. If you're a small startup, it's not such a big deal because you don't ship enough to fill an entire container. But for us, it hits hard. Our profit margins in bulk trading are already razor thin. Now with a 34% tariff, it's like getting knocked to the ground.
He said the only thing he can do for now is wait. His backup plan is to ship through third-party warehouses in other countries. That's the only way forward. On April 7th, the owner of a clothing factory posted a video saying the entire foreign trade apparel industry in China is filled with anxiety.
Everyone doing foreign trade now is nervous. A 50% tariff is just scary. Who's going to place orders under these conditions? Sure, some clothing businesses are still busy, but it's hard to make money anymore. US orders only make up part of our business, but there are so many clothing factories in China. If we all turn to Europe and there's no US orders, then think about it. Won't competition at home become even worse? Domestic sales are also weak this year. People just don't have money to spend, so how can this market possibly improve?
On April 2nd, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new round of global-based tariffs, raising rates on dozens of countries. At the time of the announcement, the actual tariff rate for China stood at 34%. In response, the Chinese Communist Party announced on April 4th that it would impose a matching 34% tariff on all goods imported from the U.S. Trump then warned that he may raise tariffs on China by another 50%. The CCP responded by saying it's ready to fight to the end. While the Chinese government is showing a tough stance, many businesses in China are already feeling the pain. On April 7th, a TikToker filmed a clothing factory that had shut down and said the clothing industry is in serious trouble. All the machines in his factory are about to stop. He said this year is going to be incredibly tough. That same day, another TikToker posted a similar scene, workers moving goods around inside a clothing factory. He wrote that as soon as the U.S. swung its tariff hammer, the impact finally hit the apparel industry. His factory originally had orders scheduled through the end of July, but now over 6,000 down jackets have been put on hold, and their ready-to-ship products are piling up in the warehouse. He said both offline and online sales are struggling this year. Even live stream selling isn't working anymore. With sluggish consumer demand and weak domestic sales, the foreign trade slowdown is pushing more exporters into the domestic market, creating even more excess production. He said this year's apparel industry is like a pressure cooker that could blow at any moment. This isn't just panic, it's worse than during the pandemic. Many clothing business owners may lose everything they've built over a lifetime. Another TikToker showed the current situation at his factory. Because of the tariff hike, orders have been delayed or canceled. Now his packaging and printing factory doesn't even have boxes to make. All he can do now is clean the factory. A TikToker shared a video saying that after the U.S. increased tariffs, the impact on China's foreign trade is obvious. He mentioned that when he flies, there are hardly any Westerners on the plane, mostly people from Africa. Also, when entering the U.S., Chinese people face especially strict security checks. On April 6, a female owner of a laser cutting factory, Liu Ting, posted a video saying that manufacturing in China is going to get even harder, and she plans to sell off her 30,000-watt equipment. Yes, you heard me right. I might have to sell the laser equipment I bought last April. I don't need to explain. You can probably guess why. The economic environment is bad, and the trade war has already started. Soon, all manufacturing businesses, especially small ones, will face bankruptcy. This is not an exaggeration. It's the reality. She also said that starting this month, all manufacturing businesses in China will face an unprecedented winter. More and more companies will go bankrupt, lay off workers, and downsize. Many manufacturing owners will end up with insufficient funds and will not survive. Cases in banks, law firms, and courts will pile up. The TikToker estimates that all manufacturing business owners are currently in an anxious, confused, and helpless state. Particularly for factories that relied on foreign trade orders, the shrinking foreign demand and declining domestic demand are making it difficult. Many small business owners can't sleep because of worries and fear. They're afraid all the years of hard work will go to waste. They fear they won't be able to pay employee wages or cover rent and utilities. The TikToker revealed that with electricity costs for her equipment already reaching her limit, she has decided to sell her 30,000-watt laser equipment. On April 8th, a TikToker from Zhejiang shared a video saying that she suddenly realized the U.S. tariff increase has also severely impacted non-exporting manufacturers. How big of an impact has the tariff increase had on local factories in Zhejiang? I run a small factory and don't deal with foreign trade, so I'm not sure how much it would affect me. But I've noticed that my upstream suppliers who export raw materials haven't received any orders for a long time. Not even one container has shipped out. When they can't get orders, they try to switch to domestic sales. Now people at their factories are still working non-stop, running around to try to make domestic sales. So when they get involved in the domestic market, doesn't that just drag the domestic factories into it too? Everyone's getting caught in the spiral, and in the end, we'll all collapse together. The impact is really huge, and some people probably haven't realized it yet. Whether it's the impact on their foreign trade or on our factories that don't deal with foreign trade, it's all very significant. On April 7th, a TikToker from Foshan visited a newly built factory district and recorded footage of the vacant and neglected factory buildings.
He said, "Look at these factories that were just built last year. Now I can't even find a single person. There are no cars or people on the road. Some of these factories are single-story and others have multiple floors. The landlords spent nearly $1 billion yuan to build these. Just a few years ago, these beautiful buildings were all leased out by middlemen. You had to wait in line to rent a factory space, but now there isn't a single customer coming to view the space. The new factory buildings behind me haven't even been renovated yet because the landlords are afraid of spending money if no one rents them. With the manufacturing industry in decline, every industry is struggling."
He recalled that some Chinese companies moved to Southeast Asia to avoid the U.S.-China trade war a few years ago. Now, this new wave of tariffs is a heavy blow to those companies because some countries have even higher tariffs than China. He questioned where these companies should go next: stay in Southeast Asia, move back to China, or shift to Africa. On April 7th, Ms. Gong, a manager of a Bluetooth headphone export company in Guangzhou, told Radio Free Asia that most companies in Guangdong that used to trade with the U.S. have stopped accepting orders due to tariff barriers. She said, "I had dinner with people from the industry yesterday, and they told me that they used to export products from Vietnam to the U.S. Now most of those orders have stopped. They're not taking new orders. They're just waiting to see how serious the situation will get. Right now, we know that foreign trade companies in Guangzhou and Guangdong are temporarily not accepting orders." Ms. Gong also mentioned that a Hong Kong company near her recently moved its factory to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and is currently hiring Vietnamese locals. However, the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs has put the factory in a difficult position. She said, "They just built the factory in Vietnam, and now they're about to start operations. But now the U.S. has increased tariffs by 46% on Vietnam, so it's impossible to avoid the high tax rates. The investment they made earlier is now wasted." According to Trump's announced plans, the U.S. will implement differentiated tariffs on different countries and regions, with China at 34%, the EU at 20%, Taiwan at 32%, Vietnam at 46%, Switzerland at 31%, the UK and Brazil at 10%, and Japan, South Korea, and India at 24%. Additionally, Trump announced a minimum 10% tariff on all goods entering the U.S. However, on April 7th, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the U.S. to discuss negotiations on Trump's latest tariff policy. He revealed that President Trump will personally participate in the talks to secure the best bargaining position for the U.S. Many Southeast Asian countries, including Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaysia, have expressed willingness to make adjustments and negotiate with the U.S. Despite Vietnam's proactive efforts to reduce U.S. import tariffs, the White House refused to offer reciprocal concessions, citing non-tariff cheating. U.S. trade advisor Peter Navarro recently said that Vietnam's issue lies in non-tariff methods, such as Chinese products being exported via Vietnam and the theft of U.S. intellectual property. His comments highlighted that the Trump administration not only sees tariffs as a tool to resolve trade imbalances, but is also trying to prevent country of origin laundering and reshape global manufacturing and supply chains.
So there you have it. You can see what the tariffs are doing, what the real plan is. To continue to make sure that the United States stays the true superpower and that other countries don't take over this position. The fact that we have people inside our Congress who side with China, accusing Trump to being with Putin when he's not, should tell you everything you need to know about our own government. And Trump is exposing them as well. So between all the money he's going to save with all these cuts in the budget, with all these people getting fired that should have been fired, but he's also bringing back hundreds of thousands of jobs from overseas, and giving us an even playing field when it comes to trade. When Trump is successful, and he will be, he would have secured our position as a superpower for decades to come. Anyways, that's it for now. Let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm out.